Dear listeners, good morning and welcome to Comme d'Archi, the podcast that opens the doors to the fascinating world of architecture. For newcomers, let me introduce myself. I'm the spokesperson of Anne-Charlotte Despons, PhD in History of Architecture, published author, head of a communication and development agency based in Paris, France, dedicated to architecture. Let's meet every week to discuss culture and architecture with specialists and learn how to look at projects through a context and diversity lens. Thank you for being with me today, and now it's time for talent.
Bienvenue dans Comme d'Archi.
Hello, dear listeners. This is Esther on behalf of Anne-Charlotte. Today, I will read to you the story of a captivating project, that of the Air Liquide Research and Development Center in Loges-en-Josas. This story was written by the architect of the project, Michel Rémon. Let me read to you. This project for Air Liquide is a very special story for our architecture workshop, a private project management, an international industrial group without a recent real estate culture, a brand present all over the world, a flagship of French industry turned towards the future. The Air Liquide Group has chosen to rebuild in Loges-en-Josas on the Saclay plateau their research and development center for the whole world, their flagship, a mixed program of research laboratories and offices for 14,700 square meters. We were the winners of this consultation on references, with that submission of a project at the end of July 2014. The design work started immediately from a white page. From August 2014, we shared the adventure of designing this project with its future occupants, its project manager, as well as Olivier Delabroix, Head of Research and Development World, and Bruno Le Prince-Ringuet, Head of Research and Development Europe. France is your origin. The world is your territory. This was the founding phrase we used to address Air Liquide's management during the jury. And it was with this idea that the project began, a world building in a world garden. A place that is both located in the village of Loges-en-Josas and globalized in the world territory of this international industrial group. The project approach. During weekly sessions, we proposed different ways of composing the project plan, alternating reference images for the interior ambiances, functional principles, schematic sections, to question the project owner about his expectations. The linking of laboratories and offices was, as always in this type of building, at the center of the discussions. And then, very quickly, a new enforcing space appeared, developed from the main circulation that was to link all the site's activities throughout the day. In designing it, it became obvious that it had to solve the lack of collective life of sharing of the current site. We imagined, considered many solutions for this space so that it will be a place to live, to meet, to share between researchers. With Olivier Delabroix and Bruno Le Prince-Ringuet, we imagined how to live in it, how to build its special unity, what I call its unity of place. Its name then became obvious to all, the artery, a place that distributes life to all the organs of the center that creates a centrality. Week after week, we thus invented together a unique place of work with the scientists whose discoveries are useful to the whole planet, with a very great mutual listening, a very great confidence in our respective competences. At the same time, we have worked with our engineers so that the building expresses the commitment of the Air Liquide Group to energy and environmental performance. From the very first meetings, the center's researchers were invited by Air Liquide's management to work with our engineers so that this new research center will be a demonstrator of the group's research areas focused on respect for the environment. This virtuous approach reflected the Air Liquide Group's desire to control and limit its impact on the environment. The building thus solved the question of its energy by 300 square meters of photovoltaic panels and its storage in the form of hydrogen, via a fuel cell unique in France on this scale. In this way, the center finds its own resources and even goes so far as to power the hydrogen-powered cars that stop there. Architectural composition. To materialize the unity of the center, we have inscribed it in a circular figure in the northeast corner of the site, as much for phasing issues as to preserve the future. Within this figure, we have organized all the boundaries of buildings according to a rigorous north-south, east-west orientation in order to dialogue with the course of the sun. We have placed the reception hall, the origin of the artery, facing due north, which then distributes the laboratories to the east and the offices to the west, moving towards the south, towards the sun. The course of the sun is readable everywhere. The laboratories to the east, on the village side, receive the sun in the morning. The offices to the west, immersed in the park, receive the sun all afternoon. The artery, oriented north-south to distribute all the premises, receives sunshine all day long. Here, we have composed an oriented architecture together with a contextualized architecture, an architecture that dialogues as much with the course of the sun as with the surrounding landscape. The design of the garden world that surrounds the buildings was provided by the landscape designer Laure Planchet. It pays tribute to the great traveling botanist and the historical link between the Versailles estate and the Saclay plateau. In particular, the garden is organized around large rainwater retention ditches to infiltrate all the rainwater from the site despite the clay soil. A very rich biodiversity is thus reconstituted by relying on the tree patrimony already present on the site. Thank you for listening part 1 of the Air Liquide project. This was Esther for Charlotte. Let's meet again next week for part 2.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to tune in to our previous content on Instagram at Comme d'Archi Podcast. If you like it, make sure to promote the podcast by giving it 5 stars on Apple Podcast and adding a comment, or on any of your favorite podcast platforms. And don't forget to subscribe and listen to all of our episodes for free. See you soon, and until then, take care of yourself.